story. I like that story.
Very cool.
The Pope is simply saying, whether you're a politician, a financier, an economist, an industrialist, whatever you are, look at the consequences of what you're doing through the lens of humanity and through the moral obligation to include everyone in the effort to have a truly good and just society.
That was Cardinal Donald Wuerl earlier this morning on Fox News Sunday defending Pope Francis's comments about climate change. The Pope says humans are to blame and is calling for a dramatic change in our lifestyle.
Yeah, and for a reaction to the Pope's assessment, Executive Director of the Acton Institute, Father Robert Sirico, joins us. Father, no Pope has ever devoted an entire encyclical to the environment, and although it may not be a political manifesto, it does have powerful political implications, and I'm curious to get your reaction to this.
Yes, indeed. Well, the core of the encyclical, as the Cardinal just pointed out, is a moral call, and that good Catholics and I think reasonable people aren't going to have any problem with. The contention comes with certain economic presuppositions and policies, as well as some scientific. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I just leave the empirical arguments to the scientists to, debate there. But when it comes to the economic, blaming the Industrial Revolution effect and all of the advent of free markets and globalization on pollution, I think is a little misdirected, simply because certainly the most capitalist countries are the cleanest. And the technologies can help to a very great extent. I don't say that they're the total solution, but to a very great extent are going to be what's going to get us out of this situation of externalities destroying the planet. I think the alignment with the United Nations is also problematic, because the United Nations in many respects is antithetical to the Church's understanding of the human ecology, that human beings are the solution, not the problem. And when we read the documents of the UN, it's almost as though it were humanophobic.
Father, I'm interested because of who's doing this especially. Pope Francis has been able to sort of revolutionize the church in so many ways. They talk about the Pope Francis effect, more people coming to church, more people there for Christmas Mass, for Easter, those kinds of things. And I'm wondering if by capitalizing on that popularity and doing this, you risk of kind of losing the fight and therefore losing that popularity and that sort of universal love that we saw after his election and some of the things that we learned about him.
There's no doubt that this Pope is incredibly compassionate and so attractive to so many people because he's sending this message of love. We have to remember, too, that he is an Argentinian, and he sees the world of economy through the lens of an Argentinian. And what that means is that when he saw big business in Argentina, he was to a very great extent seeing crony capitalism. And to take that understanding of the market and how the market operates and put it on a global scale, I think, is a mistake. And the other part of this is, if the Pope has lined up with the UN and other people who contend certain scientific premises, if that, as other scientists say, proves to be wrong, then we have a whole new Galileo situation over again. I just want to make it clear that the Pope is not pronouncing authoritatively on climate change.
If I may interrupt you there, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the suggestion in his encyclical was that poverty is a result of really the globalized economy. And so what message does that send to the entire globe? You said he's an Argentinian, but this is a letter to the world.
Yeah, but poverty isn't the result of globalized economy. Since we've been globalizing for the last 100 years, our societies have gotten wealthier and wealthier. And that's the solution. It's for us to trade, to have the division of labor. And so I think he's got the thing, and it's an economic point, not a moral point. He's got the thing on its head.
Okay, and I know one of the things, I'd seen some of your interviews online, and you said, if anything, this starts a dialogue. Where do you see this discussion going?
You know, that's another important part of the encyclical. He emphatically calls, right in the first paragraph, he calls for a conversation about this. He calls for a debate. And everything I know from people who know the Pope and having met him, he's a man who enjoys a good discussion. And so we're just answering that call very respectfully, saying we'd like to debate some of these things.
Okay, Father, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We'll have more after the break.